So good afternoon everyone. So before we start our discussion for today, may I request everyone to please stand and pick up the pieces of papers and plastics around you. Okay? And please remain standing for the prayer. Jane, can you lead us a prayer please? In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, you may now take your seats. So how are you today, class? Okay, that's good to hear that you're good. So before anything else, I would like to introduce first myself. By the way, I am Sir Jonal Marianito, and I will be your teacher in mathematics. So at this moment, I will be posting here a decimal numbers. You are to compare each pair of fraction by using less than, greater than, or equal symbols. So I will be giving you 5 minutes to answer this one. Afterwards, we will check. So time is up. Let's check your answers. For number 1, we have less than, which is 4,987 because it is the bigger one. Number 2, we have equal because they do have the same numbers as you have seen right now. Number 3, we have less than because 8,542 is the bigger one. Number 4, we have greater than because 1,478 is the bigger one. Number 5, lastly is number 5. We have here less than because 9,244 is the bigger one. So, what was our discussion yesterday? Yes, Gilbert. Very good. Our discussion yesterday was all about comparing and ordering decimal. So, what is a decimal? Yes, Francis. Precisely. Decimal is a standard system for denoting an integer and non-integer numbers. It is the extension of Indo-Arabic numeral system. So what do we call this one? Yes, Jessa. Very good. This is called as a decimal point. And how do you arrange decimal numbers to ascending form? Very good. So at this moment, I will be posting here a situational problem. So I have here a situational problem and I want you to listen carefully. So John Ray loves doing exercises such as jumping jack, staring, and running. Every morning, John runs 1.28 kilometer. How far does he run every morning if we are to round off 1.28 to the nearest tens or to the nearest whole numbers? So what is asked in the problem? Yes, Mecca. Very good. How far does he run? How far does John Ray run every morning? That is asked in the problem. And what is the given decimal number? Yes, Jessa. Very good. The given decimal number is 1.28 kilometer. And why is it important for John to do exercises every morning? Yes, Roland. Very good. In order for him to be healthy and to be physically fit. So for you, what could be our topic for today? Yes, Jane. Very good. Our topic for today is all about rounding of decimals. So who among you here who have remembered on how to round off decimal numbers? Okay. So rounding of a decimal is used to find approximate values of decimals. For example, if you have $4.93 in your wallet and your friend asks you about how much money you have, you might tell, I have about $5. Similarly, you probably don't need to say that your house is 2.15 miles from the grocery store. Instead, you might say that the store is about 2 miles away. Like addition and subtraction, rounding decimals is very similar to rounding whole numbers. So here's what you need to do in 5 simple steps. So the first one is you just have to figure out what place you need to circle that digit if it helps you. Second one is look at the digit right after the one you want to round to. Third is if this digit is 5 or bigger, round up, and you have to add 1 to the digit you are rounding to. And this is the number you circled. The fourth one is if it's smaller than 5, you just have to round down. Leave the digit you are rounding to as it is so there's no changes. Then lastly, get rid of all of the numbers to the right of the digit you are rounding to. So we have here an example. So example number 1. We are to round 52.74 to the nearest tens. So 5 here is our tens, 2 is ones, 7 here is tens, and 4 is hundreds. So the tenth is the first digit after the decimal point. So as you can see, this is the decimal point. And the tenth is the first digit from the decimal point. So starting from this, we have here ones and tens and hundreds. Decimal point just to the right of the ones. We have here 52.74. Let's look at the right digit after it. The digit to the right of 7 is 4. 52.74 as you can see here. 4 is smaller than 5, so we leave our tens digit the same as 7 only. So our answer here would be 52.74. There's no changes because you just have to remain the numbers as it is if it is smaller than 5. Finally, we get rid of the numbers to the right of the tens. So 52 from 52.74, it will become 52.7. So for example number 2, round 341.902 to the nearest whole numbers. So this, as you can see, take a look at this table. We have here 9 as tens, 0 as hundreds, 2 as thousands, and on the other side we have here 1 as ones, 4 as tens, and 3 as hundreds. So we need to round to the nearest whole number or the ones place. So we have here 341.902. So we have here 1 as ones. So let's look at the digit right after it. The digit to the right of the decimal point is 9. So we have here 341.902. 9 is greater than 5. So we add 1 to our 1's digit. 1 plus 1 equals 2. So from 341.902, it will become 342.902 since since it is 9 is bigger than 5. So 9. So finally, the answer for this is 342.902. Finally, we get rid of the numbers to the right of the ones, since we don't have any numbers after the decimal point anymore. So we can get rid of it too. So from 341.902, it will become 342. So this is 342. This is converted. This is already a whole number. So in this case, let's solve together the problem of John Ray. So the one that I've let you see a while ago. So John Ray runs 1.28 kilometer every morning. And how far does he run if we are to round off 1.28 to the nearest tens? So 1.28. So our tens in 2 next of it is number 8. So we have here 1's 10. So 8 is the tens here. Remember, in rounding off number, it should be 5 or bigger in order for us to round it off. So 8, as you can see here, so 8 is bigger than 5, so we can round off the 2. So from 1.28, it will become 1.3 because we have to add 1. So John runs 1.3 kilometer every morning if we round it off to the nearest tens. In other hand, if we round off 1.28 to the nearest whole number, so our nearest whole number is 2. Our whole number here is 1. So our whole number here is 1. So the nearest whole number for 1 is 2. So in 2 in less than 5, so we can't round off the 2 because it is smaller than 5. So the answer for this is still the same. So there's no changes at all. So therefore, John runs 1.28 kilometer every morning. Is we round off to the nearest whole numbers. So this is will be the answer. So at this moment, I want you guys to answer this one. John, you are to answer number 1. Jane, you are to answer number 2. Jessa, you are to answer number 3. And Francis, you are to answer number 4. So let's solve this. Solve this on the board. Okay, time is up. And you just have to round. By the way, you are to round up to the nearest tens. Be extending your time. Okay, time is up. So for number 1, what's your answer? Okay, we have here 12.4. For number 2, we have here 1.832. Number 3, we have here 4.7. Number 4, we have here 176.8. So how did you get the answer for number 1? What makes it 12.4? So starting from decimal point, we have here ones, tens. So the digit next to it is 6. So 6 is bigger than 5, so it will become 12.4 or 12.3. It will become 12.4. For number 2, we have 1.832. So starting for the decimal point, we have here ones, tens. So the digit next to it is 2. So it will be the same. The answer is still the same. It will still 1.832. Number 3, we have 4.6581. So we have, starting for decimal point, we have ones, tens. So the digit next to 5 is 8. So since 8 is bigger than 5, so from 4.6 it will become 4.7. Correct. Number 4, 176.777. So starting from the decimal point, we have here ones, tens. So the digit next to the tens is 7. Since it is bigger than 5, so from 176.7, it will become 176.8. How about if we are to round? Okay. So at this moment, let's take a look at this and how to round up the example. So in rounding of decimals, we just have to figure out what place we need to round to. And at the digit right after the one you want to round to. Third one is if this digit is 5 or bigger, round up. So as I've said earlier, so this is just a summary. Next is if it's smaller than 5, round down. Leave the digit you are rounding to as it is. So as I've said earlier, there's no changes at all. Next is read of all of the numbers to the right of the digit you are rounding to. So at this moment, I will group you into 3 and you are to answer this one. So I will group you into 3. So for group 1, you are to round off the decimals to the nearest whole number. For group 2, you have here 1 to 5. Next is group 2. You are to round off decimal to the indicated place value. You have here the tens and hundreds. For group 3, you are to underline the rounding place of each number and then round it as required. I will be giving you 10 minutes to answer this one. Afterwards, we will check. Okay, time is up. Let's check your answers. So for group 1, as I've said earlier, you are to round off the decimals to the nearest whole number. So for number 1, we have here the answer the answer would be 24. The nearest whole number of 23.546 is 24. Second one is the nearest whole number for 6781.776 is 6782. The third one, the answer for this is 67.456. Number 4, we have the nearest whole number for 0.74 is 1. Number 5, we have the nearest whole number for 1.90 is 2. So for group 2, as I've said earlier, you are to round off decimal to the indicated place value. So let's check your answer for this. So for group 2, for the tens we have here, it will become 0 from 0.815, it will become 0.9. And from hundreds, it will become 0.82. Because we have here ones and tens. The second one is, the answer for this is 2.7. And next is 2.67. The third one is 986.3. For hundreds, we have 986.26. Next is for this 667.324. We have here 67.324 for tens. And for the hundreds, we have 67.324. Lastly, we have 45.476. So the answer for this is 45.5. And for the hundreds, we have 45.48. For group 3, as I've said earlier, you are to underline the rounding place of each number and then round it as required. For number 1, 0.673 to the nearest tens. So the answer for this, or the underline, we are to underline 7. And afterwards, we will round it off. So the answer would be 0.7. Number 2, we have 32.538 to the nearest hundreds. So 8 would be the underlined number digit here. And if it is round off, so it will become 32.54. Number 3, we have 7.456 to the nearest tens. So the underline that our tens here is 5. And if we are going to round off, it will become 7.5. Number 4, we have 27.8888 to the nearest thousand. So our underline digit here is 8. And if we're going to round it, it will become 27.889. Lastly, for number 5, we have 62.54 to the nearest whole number. So we have here under the 5 as an underlined digit. And the answer for this is 63. So do you understand how this one, the process, on why it became 0.9, the tens here? Okay, let's discuss about this. So the answer for this is 0.9 because we have here ones, 8 as ones, and tens. So the digit next to 1 is 5, since 5 is bigger than 5, so it will become 0.9. So for hundreds, we have ones, tens, hundreds, 5. So from 0.815, it will become 0.82 since it is bigger than 5. So for this, 2.655, so we are to round it to tens. So ones, tens. So the digit next to the tens is 5. So since it is bigger than 5, so it will become 2.7. Next is for the hundreds. So 2.655. So ones, tens, hundreds. So the digit next to it is it, it will still be the same. There's no changes at all. It will become, for the hundreds, we have ones, tens, hundreds. So from 2.655, it will become 2.67. Next is 986.257 from tens, ones, tens. So the digit next to the tens is 7. So since 7 is bigger than 5, so it will become 986.3. For the hundreds, ones, tens, hundreds. So from 986.257, it will become 986.26. Next is 67.324. So we are to round the tens. So ones, tens. So 2 is the tens here. So since the digit next to the tens is 4, since it is smaller than 5, so it will still be the same. The answer would be 67.324. For the hundreds, we add ones, tens, hundreds. So from 667.324, it will become 67.324. So there's no changes at all. It will still be the same. Lastly, 45.476. You are to round nearest tens. Ones, tens. So 7 is the tens here. So if we are going to round it, so the digit next to 7 is 6. So since it is bigger than 5, so it will become 45.5. So for the hundreds, we have 45.476. So the nearest hundreds for this is 45.48. So for group 3, number 1, 0.673 to the nearest tens. So what makes it 0.7? Because we have here 7 as tens. So the digit next to 7 is 3. So it is smaller, so it will become, it is bigger, so it will become bigger than 5, so it will become 0.7. Next is 32.538 to the nearest hundreds. So we have ones, tens, hundreds. So the answer for this is 32.54. Because 8 is bigger than 5, so it will become 32.54. Number 3, 7.456 to the nearest tens. So we have ones, tens. So the digit next to the tens is 6. So since it is bigger than 5, so it will become 7.5. Number 4, 27.8888 to the nearest thousands. So we have ones, tens, thousands, one, tens, hundred, thousands. So since the digit next to thousands is 8, since it is bigger than 5, so the answer would be 27.889. So lastly, 62.54 to the nearest whole number. So the nearest whole number for 62.5, so 5 is the whole number here, it will become 63. So at this moment, I want you to answer this one. Before answering this one, what was our topic? What was our topic? What is our topic for today? Yes, John. Very good. Our topic for today is all about rounding off decimal. And if we are to round off decimal, if it is bigger than 5, we have to round up, and if it is smaller than 5, we have to round down. So at this moment, I want you to answer this one. In a one whole sheet of paper. So we have here, you are to round off the following decimal to the indicated place value. So I have it here an A, B, C, D. For A, you are to round each number to the nearest tens. For B, we are to round each number to the nearest hundreds. For letter C, we are to round each number to the nearest thousands. For letter D, we are to round each number to the nearest whole number. So I will be giving you 5 minutes to answer this one. Afterwards, you are to pass your papers in front. So time is up. Let's check your answers. So for letter A, as I've said earlier, you are to round each number to the nearest tenth. So the answer for 2.01 is 2. Next is for 12.49. If round off to the nearest tens, it will become 12.3. Next is 3.1. If round off to the nearest tens, it will become 3. Next is 61.56. If round off to the nearest tens, it will become 61.6. Next is 93.73. If round off to the nearest tens, it will become 93.7. Next is 4.661. If round off to the nearest tens, it will become 6. So for letter B, as I've said earlier, you are to round each number to the nearest hundred. So 64.564, we have here the answer already. It will become 64.56. Next is 73.322. If round off to the nearest hundreds, it will become 73.32. Next is 766.439. If round off to the nearest hundreds, it will become 76.44. 76.44. Next is 22.930. If round off to the nearest hundreds, it will become 22.93. Next is 47.166. If round off to the nearest hundreds, it will become 47.17. Next is 79.817. If round off to the nearest hundreds, it will become 79.82. For letter C, as I've said earlier, you are to round each number to the nearest thousand. So for this 69.8811, we have the answer already. The answer would be 69.881. So next is 11.1158. It will be, if round up to the nearest thousand, it will become 11.160. So next is 38.5251. So if round off to the nearest thousands, it will become 38.525. Next is 91.3073. If round off to the nearest thousands, it will become 91.307. Next is 60.8558. So if round off to the nearest thousand, it will become 60.856. Lastly, we have here 35.6866. If round off to the nearest thousand, it will become 35.687. So lastly, for letter D, as I've said earlier, you are to round each number to the nearest whole number. So the nearest whole number for 2.5 would be 3. Next is the nearest whole number for 62.2 is this is 3. For 62.2, so the nearest whole number for 62.2 would be 62. Next is the nearest whole number for 43.8 is 44. Next is the nearest whole number for 4.5 is 5. Next is the nearest whole number for 68.9 is 69. And lastly, the nearest whole number for 60.9 is 61. So at this moment, so before we end the class, I will be giving you your assignment. So for your assignment, you are to search in the internet or books about the ratio and proportion in advance for a new lesson in next meeting. Write it on 1/2 crosswise of paper. So that would be all for today, class. Hope that you've learned something from me. So before I leave the room, I request everyone to please stand and arrange your chairs. Thank you.